Yo, how's it going, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Roundup. I'm your host, Spencer the Guru Urquhart, live from New Orleans, Louisiana, and live from around Houston, Texas. There is Gabe Henderson. How's it going, bro?
Going good. Home of the Houston, Texas, home of the 6-4 Houston Texans. So great week of football.
Yeah, most definitely. Texans trying to take the AFC South, have a big game this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Same for New Orleans Saints, a big one against the Atlanta Falcons. Winner of that will be in first place of their division. So a lot of football, good football this weekend. Feast week, Turkey Day on Thursday. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone listening. And before we get into the show, Gabe, I know it is for me just because there's football on all day, but is Thanksgiving your favorite holiday?
No, it's probably not my favorite holiday. I just love the football. Anytime you want to give me football all day in the middle of the week, I'll take it. I absolutely love that.
I hear you. Yeah, it might be more of a Christmas guy, Halloween.
Yeah, more of a Christmas guy, really.
Heard that. Yeah, it'll be right around the corner here. Rich Banks tuning in. Salute NOLA Sports. Yes, sir. Go Saints. Go Pels. Go Tulane. And Hank Trill, Latino Heat, our first place listener in the Listener League, says what's up. We'll get to that in just a little bit about how Team Latino Heat is dominating. Won 8 in a row and in first place ahead of myself and Gabe, even though we both have good records in that league. So we'll see how that plays out. But before we get to that, let's get to our headlines. Another offensive coordinator has bit the dust, y'all. Matt Canada fired today by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their offense has been hot garbage, to say the least. Mike Tomlin finally just couldn't take it anymore. Said it was his decision to fire Canada, and can't argue with it. I mean, Steelers are they were just spinning their wheels. Kenny Pickett has regressed as the year's gone on, so I'm all for making changes, especially when you're a team like the Steelers that's got everything in front of you. The Bengals just lost Joe Burrow. Your defense is very good, so I feel like it's one of those things. It's about time because Matt Canada freaking trash. Saints have placed Michael Thomas on IR. That was very recent news there. And then Derek Carr still in concussion protocol, questionable to play this week. Jameis Winston could end up getting the start in Atlanta. Thomas on IR, no surprise, suffered a knee injury, and Week 10 against the Vikings was week to week. I'm kind of glad they just put him on IR rather than like last year had it drag out for weeks and then ended up having to have a season-ending surgery. So just put him on IR, see where he is after 4 weeks. Maybe he'll come back. I wouldn't bet on it considering his injury history, but I guess you never know. Kenneth Walker and Geno Smith questionable for Thanksgiving night. Seahawks could be in a world of hurt if they're both out going against the 49ers. Walker dealing with an oblique injury, and Smith, I believe, an elbow injury. So not looking good for the Seahawks on a short week. We'll have a Seahawks running back, though, on the waiver wire segment coming up here soon. Could be a potential solution, but against the Niners, don't feel super confident. And then even more bad news with injuries. That this was from Thursday night, but just wanted to just address it here since it's official. Joe Burrow and Mark Andrews out for the season. Andrews, they're saying today, maybe could come back if the Ravens make a deep playoff run. Burrow, though, I don't think the Bengals are going to be making any playoff runs. So it is RIP 2023 season for those guys.
Hey, what do you mean, Spencer? You don't believe in Jake Browning to get the job done in Cincinnati and probably the toughest division in football?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Jake Browning. I mean, shoot, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. If Jake Browning had the defense, maybe, but the Bengals defense, as it's not even a bad defense, but for that division, it's the worst division. I mean, the worst defense in the division. And then, yeah, Joe Burrow was in rare form. Yeah, if he was cooking, even with not having the best defense, he was still doing enough to keep the Bengals afloat. But now he's done. Yeah, UBN, damn. Yeah, UBN's team was on the upswing. He had taken those early L's because of Burrow being hobbled, and then now Burrow out for the season. And he had Chase as well. So, yeah, UBN in the Listener League. Not looking too good there, unfortunately, for his team. It was looking like a good comeback story, but now it's not. Unless Jake Browning comes through. But Matt Canada, though, we're going to address this here because he's now the second offensive coordinator fired in as many weeks. Ken Dorsey, Bills OC, was fired last week. Seems to spark their offense. Josh Allen had an improved outing. But this Matt Canada thing, shoot, I don't know. I mean, their offense looks broken. Firing him might help. We'll have to see. I don't think it can hurt, Gabe. I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
It's about time. I don't think this will fix all of their issues. I actually don't think it'll fix many of their issues. I think, this is one of those things to where Mike Tomlin is kind of looking for a creative way to say that, hey, Kenny Pickett's not the guy for us. The Pittsburgh front office apparently really liked him. Obviously, they took him in first round. He's just, I saw a stat the other day that Tommy DeVito now has more multi-touchdown games than him in his career.
Sheesh.
It's crazy to me. But I don't know. This is maybe a way for Tomlin to look and just say, hey, Kenny Pickett's not the guy. Matt Canada obviously wasn't the guy, but I'm still the guy because we're still winning football games. So that's my thoughts on that.
For sure. Steelers got to urgently reach out to Greg Roman. Oh, man, I don't know. He was the Ravens OC for a while. And, I mean, it might be okay because, maybe this offseason, though. I was like, you can't, implement a whole new playbook in the middle of the season. But, yeah, maybe because, I mean, the Steelers do run a lot. So I feel like if you're a team that's a run-heavy team, maybe Greg Roman could be decent. But,
yeah, great running backs, great tight ends. I mean, that's what Greg Roman's all about. So,
yep. And then, I mean, he used to be with the Ravens, so he could kind of help when they play the Ravens. So, yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, I feel like you can't make too big of a change in the middle of the season. So we'll see I think their quarterbacks coach will be calling the plays now. Or he'll be calling the plays, and their running backs coach will be the offensive coordinator. So I'm hoping this can boost the running backs because my thoughts on this was that the week before this, Mike Tomlin had come out and said Jaylen Warren was the Steelers starting running back over Najee Harris. And yet Najee Harris still had, I think, just as many or more carries than Jaylen Warren. I think that's what set Mike Tomlin over the edge because Jaylen Warren has been balling out. We'll talk more about him in our new best flex segment, which will be toward the end of the show. But Jaylen Warren has been freaking balling, and yet Matt Canada kept wanting to give the ball to Najee even more. I know Warren's not as big of a back, but bottom line is if he's that productive, you've got to feed the beast. I mean, he's been a beast lately, and Matt Canada, I just don't. It kind of reminds me of the Bijan, Tyler Algier thing with Arthur Smith. It's like, come on, man. You have one guy that's clearly better, more efficient than the other as a runner, and yet you keep wanting to beat your head against the wall. But, well, he's good. They're both good. We'll do a 50-50 split. No, bro. You got to go with who's giving you the most yards per touch. And for the Steelers, it's clearly Jaylen Warren. And I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Mike Tomlin was probably just like, I'm done with this guy. I'm done. We've clearly got a great running back here, and he's not using him. I'm just, that's kind of what I think happened.
I agree with you. I think that is the least of their concerns probably when it comes to Matt Canada. That was kind of the final snowflake that started the avalanche. On the snowfall that had already existed. I think Matt Canada had his fair share of problems. Obviously anyone watching who's an LSU fan knows Matt Canada is all show with his pre-snap movement and, everything was supposed to be fixed moving to the sideline. It's not like that. But you hit the nail right on the head, Spencer. If you go back to last year, Jaylen Warren averaged more yards per carry. He's a more efficient back than Najee Harris. They just didn't spend as much draft capital on Jaylen Warren as they did Najee Harris. So maybe that call was coming from the front office. Maybe it was Matt Canada, whatever it is. Mike Tomlin seems ready to move on. They can still be an efficient backfield, but I think Jaylen Warren has to get a run of those carries.
Yeah, for sure. Because, he was clearly the more efficient runner. He's more explosive. So, maybe Najee will still be the goal line guy. But, yeah, then as far as Kenny Pickett, before we move on from the Steelers there, yeah, Kenny Pickett you just got to get him more comfortable. I feel like right now he's just got the yips or something. He's not completing passes at anywhere near the clip that you'd want from a starting NFL quarterback. I mean, he looks like he's still at Pitt. Like, I mean, he just looks like, I mean, prior to his senior year at Pitt, he was good, but his first was 4 years ago. He was not a good quarterback. I mean, he was kind of a 1-year wonder. And I think he's kind of getting exposed at the NFL level. And so I think they might give him one more year after this, being that he was a first round pick. But yeah, if I'm Kenny Pickett, I'm a little nervous right now because the way Mike Tomlin is. I mean, Mike Tomlin's a fierce competitor. Mike Tomlin is not going to put up with losing. He's just not. I don't think he's ever had a losing season in his tenure as Steelers head coach. And with that defense, with TJ Watt, like, there's no excuse for the offense to be struggling that bad, especially since they've got some solid weapons there, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson. So we'll have to see if they can turn it around. But as far as other offenses that are struggling, including the Saints, a lot of Saints fans are calling for Pete Carmichael's head. They've been a little better lately, but the question comes up. I mean, this seems to be the trend now, offensive coordinators getting fired. If the Saints lay an egg this week against Atlanta, should they follow suit and can Pete Carmichael? I think that'll be the question that gets raised. I see you just shook your head there, Gabe. I think you're thinking they're stuck. They just got to ride it out with Pete.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of what you think of Pete Carmichael, I know a lot of people have their gripes with him. I think he'll follow Dennis Allen out the door. I think those guys are loyal to each other. But even then, I'm not even going to put this whole season on Pete Carmichael. I know people like to look for a scapegoat and all of this, but if you look at the constant injuries, early in the season, it was the offensive line. Then it was Derek Carr. And then it's Michael Thomas, and now it's Derek Carr again. I mean, the Kamara suspension as well. Jamal Williams has been hurt. I mean, it's just a revolving door for the Saints offense. So while Pete Carmichael might not be the best OC, Spencer, he's got the team humming lately. I think they've put together a few games with 20 consecutive points. I think it was the Jaguars game in the second half that they really kind of turned a corner. I'm not saying they're great, but I don't think we're anywhere near where we were a few weeks ago in terms of Pete Carmichael firing watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, because as bad as the Saints offense has been, they've been not as bad as others. I mean, like Atlanta's been worse, Carolina's been worse. So I mean, yeah, they're not as bad as Saints fans make them out to be, I don't think, because you got to compare them to the rest of the league. And yeah, they're not very good. They're probably average to below average, but probably just let it go for the season. And if it stays at that point, if they can't get it to at least average, then I think at that point, Dennis Allen's going to have to make the change, because if he doesn't, then he's going to go down with the ship. And so I think unless the Saints would lose 10 or more games, I think DA will be back next year, to where if the offense doesn't improve, though, he's going to have to make a change there. That's just my take on it. And if they really end up a disaster down the stretch here, they might both go down with the ship. So I wouldn't think that'll happen, being how easy their schedule is. But like I said on the show yesterday, I'm not convinced that they're going to beat Atlanta Sunday. And if they don't, I think Atlanta ends up stealing the division.
Yeah, it's an interesting case. I just don't think, the Saints. I don't think what the Saints need is another in-season change. So I think at this point, we're now in week 12. Firing Pete Carmichael wouldn't do too much. I know the division is winnable, but Atlanta's got a good defense, so we'll see what happens. But I'm just not on board with the whole fire Pete Carmichael thing. I think it's a bit reactionary.
For sure. And Mark had just commented there about Pelicans tickets, $3 each right now for the game tomorrow night at Smoothie King Center. That's a good deal for those that want to check out the Pelicans, man. I mean, Zion should play. They're playing a good team in the Kings. Like, that's one, like, go check out the Pels, y'all. I mean, they're not as that again. It's like compared to some of these other teams, it's like, man, it's like, I mean, I know NOLA sports fans are wanting winners and wanting excellence, and rightfully so. You want to always be the best, but appreciate, though, what you've got, though, and it's not as bad, I don't feel like, as people are making it out to be. Yeah, it's annoying. It's not at the level where it needs to be, but go support your teams, y'all. I mean, at the end of the day, these are still our teams, and if you don't support them, then you risk them getting moved out of the city. So, Yeah, go support the Pels, man. $3. What the hell?
Great price for entertainment.
Facts. So let's move on to our listener league, y'all. Listener league. Shout out to our sponsor, Caesar Sportsbook, the official odds partner of Bet.NOLA.com. We'll be giving away 2 tickets to Saints Falcons in Week 18, which could very well determine who wins the NFC South. So we've got a lot of action here in this league. Hank Trill, we shouted him out earlier, 9-2 atop the league there on an 8-game winning streak. He took down last year's champion, Roy, the Bucktown Rebel. So another big win for Hank Trill. Cameron, the Bucktown Rebel Jr., took down my dad, the original Saints fan there. He's back in the hunt at 5-6. His team's been very much a roller coaster, but might be peaking at the right time there. William runs CMC back in the win column. He took down the Bayou Bandits there, and Joseph, who they've really struggled lately. Got to get in the win column soon if they want to make the playoffs. Bomb Squad Troy took down UBN. Troy hanging on by a thread there, but trying to stay afloat there at 4-7. UBN trending down, having just lost Burrow for the season, but still fighting there. 5-6, not bad. Mike, I was in neither one of us needed the win per se. We went in 6-4. I would have liked to have had it, but Mike edged me out there. He's now 7-4 in a comfortable spot. I'm still fairly comfortable at 6-5, but not nearly as comfortable as I was at 5-0. I mean, shoot, my team's been kind of selling lately, but hopefully we can turn it around. Then Gabe also had kind of a tough week there. Fell to Salmon, the team I'm on a roll, who's also trying to stay in the hunt there at 5-6. So yeah, a lot of close battles there this week, Gabe. That was yet again another fun week. I'm glad we were able to get this listener league together because it seems to produce close matchups pretty much every time.
Yeah, my team laid an absolute egg this week. 6 players with single-digit scoring, and AJ Brown picked one a heck of a week to only have 1 point.
Yeah, he sold you, bro. If he'd had his usual week, he probably would have won.
Not even that. I mean, if he would have had 2 more points, I would have won. So 3 more points. So it's just one of those weeks you kind of just got to accept it. One of the bad weeks. But you know what? I'd rather have that now than in a couple of weeks down the road when the playoffs come around.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, great league, no doubt. Can't wait to see what the playoffs end up being like, which will be in 3 weeks. It's week 12, 13, 14, only 3 more regular season weeks. So for those that are fighting for those spots, every week's a must win at this point, unless you have a winning record. Even then, it's like, even my team 6-5, I can't get too comfortable. If I would drop 2 of the next 3, I mean, I'd be at 7-7. There's no guarantee you get in. So I feel like if you're 8-6, is pretty sure you will, but anything 500 or below, you're probably going to end up left out.
Yeah, the one thing, just going back to all those scores, the one thing I noticed, a lot of them were low. And I noticed that across all my leagues this week, rather. There were a lot of low-scoring games. Just not a great fantasy week for people all across the board.
Yeah, for sure. And for those looking to get their teams right here for a Turkey Week live Q&A, y'all, we got our live Q&A segment here coming up, about to go over waivers. But after that, any questions you might have about trades. I know a lot of trade deadlines have passed, but I still have some leagues where trade deadlines are haven't hit yet. So any trade questions, start sit questions, waiver wire, etc., whatever you might have, drop them in here on our live Q&A. But let's get to our waivers. First off, we'll let Gabe kick it off here for waivers. He has a man Saints fans are very familiar with there, Jameis Winston.
Yeah, I went with Jameis Winston because, Derek Carr's still in concussion protocol. We don't really know who's going to start the weekend, and I figured, you know what, with all the quarterback options available, you might as well go for a guy in Jameis Winston who's really boom or bust. You got to go for it. He's got huge fantasy potential just because of his big arm, his big playability. I know he throws the picks as well, but, I think out of all of the options, if Jameis Winston is going to start this game this weekend, it's a decent play.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to monitor that because there's no guarantee he'll start. I would think Derek Carr still starts because of concussion protocols. He's got to clear the protocols, but he's had over a week now to clear it. He hadn't cleared it yet, but I would think he will come Wednesday or Thursday. But you never know. And yeah, Mr. 30-30. Yeah, Jameis, he's a gunslinger.
Yeah.
He's like a modern day Brett Favre. I mean, he's not afraid to sling it and throw deep. So yeah, if he gets to start, I could see starting him. It could be a potential shootout with Atlanta. I wouldn't bank on that. I mean, it's hard to, like, Desmond Ritter didn't want to get in the shootout, and then Arthur Smith, super conservative play caller. So might not be a super big game for Jameis, but I mean, in these super flex leagues and these deep leagues where you're just kind of scrounging for a QB, I mean, yeah, if he gets to start, you could definitely be worse off.
Yeah, for sure.
So Jeff Wilson at running back, Devon Achane came back and then spoiled the party, ends up hurt again, looking like he might be out. They play on the Black Friday game, the Friday afternoon Dolphins-Jets game. I see you got Jeff Wilson there as your running back.
Yeah, I went with Jeff Wilson just because of the injuries in Miami's backfield. Raheem Mostert kind of banged up. Devon Achane doesn't look like he's going to be playing again this week. A tough break for him, but the Miami offense just utilizes their running backs so much, and they use multiple running backs. So I figured, Jeff Wilson, with all the injuries elsewhere and with a short week, you might as well take a flyer on him.
Yeah, I can see it. Keep an eye on the injury report, though. Make sure Achane is indeed out, because last week when they didn't need Jeff Wilson, he ended up a healthy scratch. But Mike McDaniel, when asked about it, just said, look, I mean, I would have loved to have had him active, but it's just with snaps. I mean, end up using the fifth receiver more than the third running back. But yeah, with no Achane, it's like they'll end up needing that number 3 back to be their number 2, and their number 2 gets a good amount of snaps. So yeah, I could see him being a solid streamer, considering the Jets defense kind of weak against the run, very strong against the pass.
Yeah, for sure. Before I even get to my wide receiver, I'm just going to jump to my tight end, because these three guys, Winston, Wilson, and Parham, these are all guys that contingent upon injuries. I just figured, these aren't your traditional guys that are staying on waivers all year. These are guys that are stepping up into potentially starting positions because of injuries elsewhere. Parham had a good week last week. Due to injuries, he got some more touches, more targets, and he performed well. So I think he's another guy, as you mentioned, watch the injury report, but if he starts, he's worth a flyer.
Right. Yeah, he did pretty well last week with Gerald Everett out, and Justin Herbert doesn't really have a whole lot of reliable receivers outside of Keenan Allen. Man, Quentin Johnston, bro, sold, man. He had a chance to win the game for him. Herbert threw a perfect pass. Dude freaking just drops it, man. Even a worse drop. Man, people were getting on MVS last night, which it was kind of a bad drop, but I mean, Mahomes, it wasn't a perfect pass. I mean, it's one MVS probably should have called, but the Herbert to Johnson, that was a perfect pass from Herbert, and Johnson just, oh my gosh, bro. Like, you were a first round pick. Like, man, that's Herbert's probably kind of lost trust in him after that. So yeah, Donald Parham, if Everett's out again, yeah, he could be a solid play.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of people look at the Chargers losing and they're quick to blame Justin Herbert, but anyone who blames Justin Herbert over there is kind of, as Jim would say, should be doing other things on Sundays.
Feeding the pigeons.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, Herbert's the least of their concerns. So, yeah. Jaden Reed, man, 18.7%. I mean, he should be rostered in more leagues considering how productive he's been.
Yeah, he's emerged as their number 1 receiver. People were high on Christian Watson coming into the year. Romeo Doubs had some talk, but, Jaden Reed has really emerged. I think it's back-to-back 19-point weeks now. He's really looking good. Looks like he's got good chemistry with Jordan Love, and, they're going to have to air it out this week, I think, because they're going to go behind pretty early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they get, that's Thanksgiving. They get Detroit, so. Yep. Yeah, there you go. A Turkey Day waiver wire ad for y'all. But I want some instant action there. Yeah, Jaden Reed could be a pretty good play. That offense kind of scares me because they seem to spread it around a lot. Like Christian Watson is still there. Romeo Doubs has been more the red zone guy. Or Reed's definitely, though, been like the most explosive option. I'm kind of surprised. I thought Christian Watson would be more in that role as far as the guy that, like, Reed had the rushing touchdown and stuff. It almost seems to me Reed is leapfrogged Christian Watson on that depth chart.
Yeah, I think he has. I think he's the number 1 target. I don't even think it's debatable anymore.
Yeah, these receivers got to stop eating popcorn before the game.
To be fair to MVS, as you mentioned, it wasn't the greatest pass from Mahomes. It still hit him in the hands. He should catch it, but he had to stretch out a little bit, tried to bring it back to his body, and it was raining. So I think
Right.
y'all should take it easy on MVS.
Yeah, Quentin Johnson though. Yeah, he may have been had a little too much
Yeah.
popcorn. Again, not everyone's To, y'all. Only Terrell Owens get away with eating popcorn during the game. So yeah, that was not a pretty sight there with a lot of these receivers. So let's do we have any questions yet? No, it doesn't look like it. Any start sit questions though, y'all don't be shy. Get them in now. Thanksgiving, we got 3 games on Thursday, so we got a lot of action going down here pretty soon. So any questions y'all have, feel free to get them in. But we'll I got to do my waivers. What am I doing? I was about to move on to our best flexes, but grab out my waiver wire, guys. So start off here with Gardner Minshew. He's not a flashy young player or anything, but he's a solid veteran who has a great matchup this week going against Tampa Bay, who has a horrible secondary. And the Colts offense has been kind of up and down, but I think this could be a Minshew week because the Bucs have a better run defense. Jonathan Taylor might have a little trouble there, so I'm thinking Minshew does well. Josh Downs should be healthy. He's another one that I think could be a good flex play this week, against a weak secondary. And of course, Michael Pittman, a must start. He's done better this season than I was thinking he would. So yeah, Colts offense pretty good. I think Minshew will thrive in this easy matchup.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. Gardner Minshew has those games every few weeks where he's just got that offense buzzing. They look pretty good. And I think this is going to be one of those weeks.
Definitely. So I had to cheat a little bit at running back. Our normal rule is less than 30%, but I had to shout out Zach Charbonnet because with Kenneth Walker out, to me, this is a must add. I know Gabe was high on Charbonnet last week, and he got his chance and did good with it, especially for PPR leagues. I believe he caught 6 passes. So even with the healthy Walker, I see him getting more involved down the stretch. He's a very talented back, and yeah, he should be rostered in a lot more than 32% of leagues. He's got a tough matchup this week. 49ers, great run defense. I wouldn't necessarily recommend starting him this week, but definitely go pick him up and stash him. He should not be floating around on your waiver wire.
No, even with Kenneth Walker healthy and playing, this is a guy who's kind of worked his way into a bigger role. So absolutely, if he's going to be the starting back, it's going to be pretty fun to see what he can do with a lot of carries. Maybe not this week, as you mentioned, against the 49ers, but otherwise, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say this is a pretty rough week for running backs. I mean, even the ones with the Packers, Aaron Jones is out. If you were going to look that way, they brought Patrick Taylor back. So, they get the Lions this week, a great run defense. And then who else do I have on my sheet here? Oh, yeah, Samaje Perine. But they're going against the Browns. Samaje Perine was involved a lot against on Sunday night against the Vikings, especially late.
Yeah.
So maybe a PPR option, but that's just, there's just not a whole lot to like. But Zach Charbonnet, he's definitely worth a shot. So let's see. Well, of course, Troy. No one's arguing this. He's the favorite for offensive player of the year. But as far as my waiver wire receiver, Tutu Atwell. I go with Tutu here with a Cooper Kupp banged up yet again. I should have figured that was coming. My apologies. I recommended him as a trade target. Hopefully, I didn't give up too much for him. I don't think I did, though. I don't really regret it because I bought him low. And, then sure enough, he gets hurt. So, yeah, that's that. But anyway, as far as Tutu Atwell, he's someone, even if Kupp comes back, I think with Kupp, they might kind of be like, look, man, you're getting older. I think they might scale him back a little bit. Early in the season, the Rams were thriving through the air with Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell. Those two were balling week after week the first month. And I think they might kind of, not saying they're going to demote Kupp if he's healthy, but I don't think it'll just be we're just going to pepper Kupp 20 times a game. I think Tutu Atwell gets more involved here down the stretch. He's a talented, fast receiver. Stafford's got a big arm. So I know he's struggled the past few weeks, but I'm thinking he could eventually get in a rhythm, maybe as soon as this week against the weak Cardinals defense.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, I mean, and Puka, because it's like he has a different skill set than either Cup or Puka. I mean, he's more the field stretcher, and in Tyler Higbee, he's not anything special. And we know the Rams love to chuck it. I mean, Sean McVay, I mean, he's one of these just young offensive minds that he likes to air it out. So I think Tutu could be a guy here. He's someone he's off a lot of people's radar, but is it time to buy him now before he gets back in the spotlight?
Yeah, he was a guy that was rostered in a lot more leagues early on just because Cooper Kupp was out. So, if he can get back to his early season form, it'll be interesting to see what he can do down the stretch, especially, now that the Rams open up a little more with Kyren Williams coming back, Stafford getting healthy. So I'm not saying they'll be a great team, but that offense will open up a little more, in my opinion.
For sure, for sure. And this might be my favorite waiver wire out of the week, y'all, because I feel like a lot of people are going to be sleeping on him. Only 1% rostered. Isaiah Likely. Mark Andrews is done for the season. You know what that means. Isaiah Likely is now the Ravens tight end. And we know the Ravens love targeting the tight end position, even with their new OC. I mean, Lamar Jackson, he's always been a go-to. Tight end has always been his go-to weapon. He's always leaned on Mark Andrews his entire career. And so I know Likely's had chances before here and there, not done a whole lot, but he'll have a lot of chances to get comfortable in the lead role, which I think that was the issue. He just wasn't really comfortable with that role. So if he starts off a little slow, be patient with him. I think in a week or two, he's going to be an every week tight end one. So I'd get him now, get ahead of the pack. And in that offense, he could be a league winner.
Yeah, for sure. He's a guy who balled out last year as a rookie when Andrews was hurt. He hasn't done that per se this season, even when Andrews has been a little banged up, but that's just been a spot start thing. I think now that he's got the reins, I think he's gonna take him and run with him.
For sure, for sure. I think we got a few questions here. Let's do our live Q&A real quick before we get to our best flex. So live Q&A, we've got our first one here. Cruz Garcia. Start 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and a flex. Dig, CD, Puka, Tank, Gibbs, Pollard, H-Chain, Kyren. Would you make any moves trade-wise? Half PPR, 8 and 3.
I probably wouldn't make any moves. Honestly, I think you've got a solid squad here. Pollard was the only question mark really at that running back position. Obviously, H-Chain and Kyren have been hurt, but I think once they both come back, they'll be good in those roles. But Pollard had a good week last week. That could be him turning a corner this season. I believe that might be because I have Pollard in a fair share of leagues, but I'm optimistic about Pollard going forward still.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could bounce back. I mean, he should get more goal line opportunities. So I'd probably go with Kyren just coming back, H-Chain banged up. Yeah, I'd probably start Gibbs and Pollard for my 2 running backs. My receivers, Dig, CD, Puka. You got to start all 3 of them. And then for your flex,
Tank.
You'd go Tank. Yeah, I mean, he's been so good. I mean, Kyren's tempting. He's got a good matchup, but just coming back, they might not make him the full-on workhorse. So, yeah, I'd probably go Tank as well.
Yeah, he's just so versatile. The Texans use him as a safe option, across the middle of the field in medium to short routes, but then they'll also throw the deep ball to him. He can line up in the flex. He can line up outside. He's just, what he's done as a rookie has amazed me. And I'm not just saying that as a Texans fan. He's just been really fun to watch as a receiver.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, he's there's no bias there from Gabe. I mean, Tank Dell is a legit WR2 at this point with WR1 upside. He's a must start in most. I mean, he's got a pretty deep squad here, but even with that, I'd still start Tank Dell Cruz. So yeah, you're on the right track, man. I wouldn't make any moves. So Troy's got one for us. Stafford or Kyler Murray rest of the season. I'd go Kyler. Here. I mean, Stafford is what he is. I mean, he's okay, but Kyler's just got way more upside because he's got that rushing ability. And I mean, even though he's just come back, like he's still put up pretty good numbers. So to me, this is an easy choice.
Yeah, it's an easy choice for me too. Stafford's older. He's not as mobile. which you could argue he's not mobile at all.
Yeah, he's never been mobile.
And, here's the thing. Kyler Murray's got a chip on his shoulder. He's playing for the rest of the season to prove that he can be the guy for that franchise and that they don't need to take a quarterback with their early pick. So I think Kyler Murray's going to do that. He's already shown me enough for me to believe that the Cardinals should stick with him. But, he's going to be playing with that chip on his shoulder. He's not going to want to make mistakes. He's going to want to make those big plays. Even if they don't win, he's kept them competitive.
Agreed. Yeah, it's an easy one for me. So, let's conclude it here with our best flex segment. We're going to flex on them here. We got some players here that we, determine were like flex worthy players, and some that you just, like, to me, you got to start them. Like, they've done enough to where you got to put them at least in your flex spot at the very least. And to me, I got Jaylen Warren on there because I know a lot of people were able to get him like very late in drafts or off the waiver wire. And so you're like, oh, he's just like a flex, I might stick him in there. Najee's still there. Is it really worth starting this guy? Yes, start Jaylen Warren. Matt Canada's out of there. I think this will be free Jaylen Warren season the rest of the way. And they get a good matchup. Bengals run defense has struggled. That's their weak spot is against the run. So I'm thinking with the new play card, a great matchup, Jaylen Warren I trust him probably even as an RB2, but as a flex play, a slam dunk.
Yeah, for sure. I like Warren going forward, especially without Canada in there. I think they're going to run the ball a lot more, keep it simple. And he's got that explosiveness that we talked about at length earlier. So I absolutely would start him if I had him on my team.
Cool. And so you got Courtland Sutton, who's been on a roll lately, but draws a tough matchup against Cleveland. Tell us why he's still your best flex.
Yeah, Courtland Sutton over the last few weeks, the Broncos have just been excellent. They hold the longest winning streak in the NFL right now, which didn't think I'd be saying that 5-6 weeks ago. But Courtland Sutton has really been the reliable force in that offense, which is no surprise. It's who he's been throughout his career. Maybe we didn't see that as much last season, which is why I've got him as a flex play. He's a top 25 receiver fantasy wise. I just think because of where he was valued as ADP, you probably, if you have Sutton, you probably have two receivers who were better. So, but he's been a target machine. He's been Russell Wilson's go-to guy. He's scored touchdowns. He's added touchdowns to his game. He's been really clutch, the guy that they go to late. And I think that's a reason to start him, even though he does have that tough matchup in Cleveland. He's proven that he can make those tough catches. And I think, just from a visual standpoint, just watching his game, this is the sexiest his game has been throughout his career. He's making those great catches. He's scoring the clutch touchdowns. He was underappreciated for so many years, but now I think he's finally getting the love he deserves. And even against a tough matchup like Cleveland, I think he's got the target share to be a reliable flex option.
Mm-hmm. The thing that gives me some confidence, despite the tough matchup, is his very heavy involvement near the goal line. He's Russell Wilson's go-to red zone option. Denver doesn't really have a big tight end that's reliable. Adam Troutman, we know Saints fans know the drill with him. He's not a reliable receiver. So Courtland Sutton seems to be that go-to red zone guy. So even if he doesn't get his usual amount of catches against an extremely stingy Browns secondary, I mean, I think he's a guy that's on pace for double-digit touchdowns. So, yeah, I mean, he's very solid. I mean, he's someone that, most leagues, deeper leagues, you might not be able to flex Jaylen Warren. I feel like most leagues you can, but I feel like Sutton, though, he is like, with this matchup, a lot of people are probably like, oh, I should probably just bench him. But, he's just been very solid to where I could see it, even though when you first texted it to me, I was like, Courtland Sutton, he's playing the Browns, bro. But numbers don't lie. He's been a stud.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I looked at more. I overlooked the matchup. I'm going with the hot hand, and Sutton's been that. Until his targets decrease, especially as you mentioned near the goal line, I'm going to keep playing him in my teams.
For sure. And Rich Banks. That was our best flex segment. Y'all comment who your best flex is or who you think is better out of mine and Gabe. So if we all want to have some fun with that, feel free. But I see we've got some more questions coming in here. So I guess we're about up against it time-wise. So let's get these last-minute questions answered here before we go. This is just Rich commenting about he's not taking either one, either Kyler or Stafford. I like Kyler for fantasy, bro. It's a fantasy show, so I'll take Kyler. Kenneth Walker, we're not sure, Troy. He's questionable. I wouldn't think he'll play this week, but
probably not.
I think he'll come back the following week. I wouldn't panic about Kenneth Walker. I think he'll be back fairly soon.
Yeah, he still hasn't been ruled out for this week, so we haven't been given much, but I think he'll probably sit out this week. That's fantasy projections lean that, and when fantasy projections lean one way, someone knows something.
Yeah, it's kind of it's kind of like with Vegas with point spreads. It's like somebody knows something. So yeah, Ken Walker, it's most likely out this week because he's projected nothing. And Pete Carroll, he's one of those old school head coaches that's vague with injuries, but I wouldn't think it would drag out much longer than this. Maybe 2 weeks at the most. If it was any more than that, they'd have probably already put him on IR.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Raphael has one for us here. It's probably our last question that we get to on this episode of the Fantasy Roundup presented by Caesars. Would you rather start Pacheco versus the Raiders or Laporta versus the Packers?
I'm leaning Pacheco here. With all the drops, everyone saw that graphic last night. Kansas City receivers lead the league in drops, especially against a tough Vegas team. I think they're going to keep the ball on the ground. Pacheco's got that explosiveness. He's a really tough runner. And let's be honest, I think, on the Thursday game, I think that the Lions are going to boat race the Packers. And I just don't think Laporta's gotten all that much target share recently. I think they've kept the ball on the ground. They've got the two-headed monster at running back with Montgomery and Gibbs, and I think they're going to stick to that. It's working, and that's just the Dan Campbell style of football. I'm not saying I'm down on Laporta. Just this week, I prefer Pacheco personally.
Yeah, I could see it. Raiders, actually, their strength's probably more their pass defense. So, yeah, I think Pacheco could have another good game, a really physical runner. Did well against the Eagles, who had the best run defense in the league. So, yeah, I think he's pretty much a must start. And, yeah, Laporta been kind of trending down lately. So, yeah, I would start Pacheco. And, yeah, for sure, Raphael, love you for tuning in, bro. Appreciate you. And our last one here from Troy. One more is to the point. Where am I starting Tua before Allen weekly? Do you two agree? I don't. I'd still start Josh Allen. This is fantasy. I mean, for reality purposes, Tua's been better because he's been less turnover prone. But for fantasy, I mean, the interceptions from Allen don't hurt that much. So I think I'd still start Allen considering he's got the rushing upside.
Yeah, the rushing upside is a luxury. Start Allen.
Yeah, because, I mean, as a passer, they're pretty similar. The only thing Tua's better from just like he doesn't throw as many picks, but picks don't hurt near as much in fantasy as they do in real life. And one more, we'll get one more in here for TH. Would you trade Ramondre and Dell for Swift and Godwin, half PPR?
Probably not. Ramondre's been trending up lately, despite New England being a terrible offense. And Swift, he's been great in reality, but in fantasy wise, he's not been excellent. He's not gotten the touchdowns recently. I think he's had a few single digit point games. So I would say no, not unless you have to. I don't think there's much of a difference at either of those positions to want to make that deal.
Yeah, I feel that because I feel like the difference here is like, I mean, Swift's a little better than Ramondre. Dell, though, I think is a good amount better than Godwin at this point. Godwin just is very meh, where Tank Dell has a lot of upside, where Ramondre, even though the offense is bad, I think still has decent amount of upside there. And then Swift, he's been seeing a lot of usage and kind of injury prone throughout his career. So I'd keep Ramondre and Dell.
Yep, for sure.
All right, y'all. That's going to do it for the Fantasy Roundup. Appreciate everyone that tuned in. Had a lot of good questions, good back and forth. So makes it a lot of fun. So y'all have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll be back tomorrow for Bayou Bets. Myself, Gabe, Jim, and Thomas Casali going to break down all the latest in the world of sports betting and reveal who our turkey of the week is, which, you'll have to tune in to find out. But for Gabe Henderson, this is Spencer the Guru Urquhart for the Fantasy Roundup. See y'all later.